going to introduce my summer solstice painting that I made back in 2018, and you can see that there's the stone circle right up at the top there underneath the sun. But if we start at the front of the painting on the left hand side by the butterfly and the clover, I'm inviting the viewer into the painting to pick up the drum, and you'll see two standing stones with a crow sat on one of them. The crow is the guardian of that gateway, that portal into the other world, into the Isle of Avalon. So the viewer picks up the drum, enters through the portal and walks down the fields, down the meadows towards the castle. Over the hills there's a pathway following right along on the left hand side there, and eventually it leads up to the stone circle. I love to create landscapes where you've got hidden spaces so that your imagination can travel into them, and you think, oh, I wonder what's down there in those woodlands, and must be a river there because there's a waterfall coming down. So I always put a lot of detail in my paintings, and really hope that the viewer will be able to, every time that you look at the painting, there's always something new to see, and it stimulates your own imagination. I thought it would be fun to show you the painting process, really, starting from sketch right through to the end result. So here is the beginning of this summer solstice painting. This is what it looked like right at the start when I sketched it onto the paper. Now, prior to getting to this point, I will have done a tremendous amount of work already, researching different landscapes, looking online, looking at pictures, and collecting all the images that I require in order that are going to represent elements of the painting. And I will also go out and do my own photography to collect the information that I need to create the different parts of the painting. Once I've decided on the final composition, I start to attach it to the paper. And I will have usually had a visual in my mind that's come to me before I even start anything. However, I always find that it never ends up looking like I'd pictured it to begin with. But it always starts with a visual in my head, and then I work to try and recreate it. And it's a very kind of organic process that I just go with the flow. So this next picture here, you'll see that I've sketched in all the elements of the border. I've got all the composition how I want it now. So I start painting in the different elements. Now I use gouache paint, which is an opaque watercolour. It's like a poster paint, and it's a bit like oils or acrylics insofar as you can paint light, dark onto light. It's not see-through like a watercolour. You're not using the transparency of the paper. And I gradually start to fill in the background very roughly with the base colours, and that is so that I can get an idea of depth and make sure that, you know, it looks like a three-dimensional view that you can walk into. So that is just manipulating the colours that I've mixed to create those effects, and I just put the base on to begin with. Once most of the base is on, I will start to very gradually, if you look at the dark green in the middle there, just to gradually start to highlight the light and dark elements of the landscape in order to start creating a texture. You will see here that I'm starting to build up the detail from the back of the painting towards the front in order to try and get the light correct, and I'm creating the texture in the rocks and the foliage, getting the light on the stones and making it look three-dimensional. And again, I'm gradually building it from the back of the painting to the front. You'll see I'm starting to get the fluffy texture of the trees, putting more detail in the undulations of the grassy banks up the mountainside there, starting to get the shadow in the water, creating where the pathway has got light and dark to it, and just steadily building it up, layer upon layer of detail. And at this point here, I'm pretty okay with how the backgrounds come on now, from the back of the painting to the front, so I've moved in to start putting the detail in the building in the middle ground there. And then I carry on bringing that detail into the front of the painting now, creating the meadow, the drums, the standing stones, putting the detail of the birds in. And as I'm working from the back of the painting to the front, I can really ensure that I can start to make it not look so flat, and that you can feel like you can walk into it with the hues and colours that I'm using. Bringing the lighter whites and the yellows and the paler green into the foreground there, bringing the detail up size-wise to give that sense of depth. Once I'm happy with the scene in the centre, I start building up the border, putting the dark colours in the background and building the detail forward again. So I work from back to front and steadily working around the edge of the painting now, filling in all the background behind all the foliage. And as I do that, I gradually again build the detail up on each aspect that I'm doing. I'm showing you a picture here of my workstation, and you'll see that I've got some bit of foliage there and a little jam jar, a little pot. I think that's an elder plant. So sometimes if it's the right time of year, I can nip out and just get some bits and bobs from the hedgerows from the garden to I'm working from real life to make sure that I get the colours correct and the shapes. And then these are my mixing palettes, so I'm constantly mixing the colours, and I have very, very tiny little brushes with only a very few hairs, and I use the smallest brushes you can get. And there's the gouache paints there, the tubes, and that's actually not my water pot, that's my orange squash. But I do find that I sometimes make mistakes, and I have washed my brush out in my orange squash in my drink and my cup of tea numerous times in the past. And there's obviously my painting in the background there, placed on the board that I use on the drawing board. And we come to the painting now, more or less finished. There's just the top of the border just down the left hand side there to complete. And once I've got to that stage, once I've got to the completion stage, I will then just stand back, and there's always a few tweaks that need doing, maybe a bit of light that needs really drawing out of something, some extra bits of white just to make things ping in the background. Here we are back at the final finished product. Now the size of this, the actual size of this painting is 10 inches by 12 inches. And people often ask me how long it takes me to create a painting like this, because I work in so much detail. And I don't tend to record the hours, I forget. And to kind of guess, I would say that if I was working 8 hours a day painting, something like this would take me about a week to 10 days to paint. Okay, so the next bit of video that I've got for you, because I still have this original painting, it is available for sale, it's on my Etsy site. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of footage of the original painting so you get to see the detail really up close and see the textures and things. And I'm going to just leave this next bit playing just to some music. So I'll see you soon in the next chapter, where we're going to be taking a walk out into the countryside.